Carisha, your preen, let's get high. I've been an addict since the microphone fiend got me high. Had no defense, I ain't been sober since. I got it bad, that monkey on my back got the shakes. Make no mistakes, I need drums and breaks and bass lines I can ride on. Get my high on, gangsta lean. I'm who the world got their eyes on. Mr. Relapse, be spitting raps to the youth. I know I'm the truth, I hold meetings in the booth. Like Bishop on the roof, I'm a falling star. I ain't learned 12 steps, but keep 16 bars. Yeah, Paul, I'm wanna chase dogs, I can't slow down. I'm in the mix, I need my fix and my flow got bounce. 10 crack commandments, I ain't preach 5. Cause your boy stay high on his own supply. This rap shit's addicting, I can't let go. Think I'm going back to rehab? No, no, no. I'm just an addict, addicted to music.
Okay, what's happening, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of our B-Boy interview series. I am Breakwiser, representing Northern Soul's crew, Belfast, and today I have the pleasure of speaking to a legend, someone who's done it basically all in the B-Boy scene, someone that our crew respects and looks up to a lot. Today I'm speaking to Bboy Menno, representing Hustlekidz, Dogz, Red Bull BC1 All Stars. How are you, man?
Good, man. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm wicked, man. So like we spoke about a little bit before, we just want to kind of get your story. We kind of pride ourselves on giving the people that watch our videos the most complete story possible of the people that we interview. So, you've been around a long time, you've done a lot, and you got a lot to kind of to talk about. So I have here, well, I always thought you were from Rotterdam, but you're from
I live in Rotterdam, but I'm from Tilburg. It's a smaller town, yeah.
Okay. And well, from what I do in my research for this interview, there was actually quite a lot of B-boy crews and when you first started, there was a lot going on in Tilburg. Can you talk a bit about that? Like the early sort of how you got into breaking in those really early days?
Yeah, so I started breaking in the 2000s, the year 2000 actually. I mean, when I was young, it was really like something all the kids were doing. We had these hypes, and they went from playing with a yo-yo to like collecting Pokemon cards to breaking, and at some point, every kid was breaking. There was this crew called Funky Styles. They were at the time one of the top crews from the Netherlands. And they were teaching a lot and in different neighborhoods. And that's, I think, how a lot of people started breaking back then. So I grew up in Tilburg North, which you walk maybe if you go in the north from the north to the south, it's maybe like a good 15 minutes walk. It's quite small. And within that walk, you would see maybe, say, Regenboog, Vlasov, like five neighborhoods, and every neighborhood had their like lower school, and every neighborhood around that school would have like a crew of kids. So only in that shows how like a very small part of the city would already have like 5 or 6 crews. And they were competitive to each other as well. We would like meet up and battle each other. We would like stay in each other's neighborhood, but then like go there to visit and battle. It was really cool.
Is it still that way? Are there still those like that number of local crews and stuff in cities?
No, it's the opposite now. Which is funny because right now I feel the opportunities and everything, they grow a lot in breaking, but the numbers decrease a lot because I felt there was way more breakers back then.
It's the way you describe it, it sounds a little bit like our OGs talk about the scene in Belfast and Ireland and the UK in the 80s. Like during when it was a bit of a craze, b-boying, and for 1 or 2 years it was everywhere and then it kind of disappeared. Like it sounds like kind of similar. Is it possible that big hype of breaking just came to the Netherlands like later than other places, or?
No, because you had another hype before that as well. I think we also had one in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a generation from the 80s and then from the 90s and then early 2000s. I think it was quite big.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then, at some point, uh, those kids get older. They get into partying. A lot of them like start doing other stuff. I don't know. Breaking always kept me in the focus to stay on the good path. But I mean, these were all kids from neighborhoods, so
Mm-hmm.
I think it was uh, a lot of temptations around them. And if you didn't like breaking that much, then it would be easy to still move to another side.
Yeah, to get into something
Um,
else.
yeah, but the for me at some point, if because my city is quite small in general, and if you keep on breaking, then you start to automatically meet the people that are left over, and that becomes like your local city scene kind of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. So I got here that well, you had a couple of older cousins that were kind of already breaking, and
Yeah.
they kind of kept you motivated in the early days and stuff like that. Are they still
Yeah.
breaking?
No, they're not breaking no more.
Okay.
Unfortunately, no.
And tell me about your first crew, Chicos Locos, MCs.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that was my very, very first crew. That was from the kids from my neighborhood. That was also at the time that the movie, I think, Vatos Locos came out, or it was already out, but that was a popular movie back then to watch for us.
You gotta pay your dues to me, pinche mamon. You wanna throw down, puto? Come and get some. Dale, motherfucker. Man, fuck you. You want another placazo badass? Come and get it, motherfucker. Chinga tu madre. I'm gonna cut your fucking eye out, bitch.
Um, and yeah, that was just the crew. We did like little shows here and there
Mm-hmm.
for like neighborhood activities, and we would get paid in like checks to buy CDs or records, like free record shop
Mm-hmm.
vultures. Um, but yeah, that was basically. I felt everybody in that crew was Baby Freeze was the main thing. It was funny because it kind of my style kind of rooted already from that crew because Baby Freeze is something, especially in the beginning, something that would come back a lot in my breaking.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in that crew was like Baby Freeze orientated, basically.
That's cool. That's why we like to ask about stuff like that because everyone's, even though it can seem like a long time ago and seem like a completely different, so long in the past, they really are. Everyone's foundation is like how they started. You
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. And this was like really like a kids crew. And back then you had Funky Styles, and then back before that, my cousins and I joined Funky Styles. They were also a crew called Ultimate MCs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we copied and we looked up a lot to Ultimate MCs. Um, that's why our name was Chicos Locos MCs. We kind
Mm-hmm.
of inspired that name also from them. Um, but that was like the stairs, it was like us, and then it was Ultimate MCs, and then there was like Funky Styles in that time. And I think as kids, it's really good to see that ladder, those
Mm-hmm.
steps. So it's not like you are here and everybody else is here.
Mm.
So it's really difficult to be able to see that jump, but you can see like, okay, I can get to their level, and once I'm at their level, I can climb up to that level.
Mm. You could see the sort of how to progress.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so how was the scene in those days? I mean, this is the early 2000s, I guess you're entering local battles. Did you start to make a name for yourself quite quickly, or did it take a lot of work, or was it difficult at that time?
Um, yeah, it's funny because when I look back at it now, it looks like a really short time.
Hmm.
Um, because I won my first international 101 in IBE. That was 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the first time I kind of made my name. But those 4 years from 2000 to 2004, that's like, it sounds like it's not much, but for me, it felt like a really long stretch.
Mm.
But I guess that's also when you're a kid. I mean, when you're a 3-year-old, like 2 years ago, that's a very long time
Yeah,
for
it's
you
2/3 of
because
your life, exactly. The way you sort of
exactly,
process time is different.
exactly. So that's how it felt back then. Um, so yeah, I was just training a lot with my cousins and my crew. But then at some point, the crew that I was hanging with, everybody kind of stopped or was getting into other things.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousins' crew as well, and they joined Funky Styles. But I was not on that level. And sometimes I felt like my cousins were like, come with us, but I was always like the cousin of them. I was not
Okay.
really my own person, I
Mm-hmm.
felt in that time. And then I met some people from Breda. That's a city that's next to Tilburg. And they came to train sometimes with Funky Styles in Tilburg. And they asked me like, hey, if you're down, come train with us as well in
Mm-hmm.
Breda, which is like 15 minutes by train. But they were all like my age, and they treated me more like their equal.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt really comfortable like I kind of felt like I found my place with them more than I felt with Funky Styles at the time because there was such a big age gap
Mm.
and a level gap. And then well, I was traveling almost every day to the city or at least a couple times a week to train with them. And that's when I start developing really my own style. That's how I kind of discovered my creativity in breaking. And that's later when I got noticed by Funky Styles and my older cousins, like, hey, damn, he's really creating his own style, he's having his own
Yeah.
touch, and I start to finally get like the respect from them that I wanted at the time as well.
Yeah.
And then when they asked me to battle with them, it felt like they really wanted to. And
Mm.
before it felt like, oh, they felt like kind of obligated to involve me with things. And I would just train with them, but not battle with them. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I didn't see like me stepping up with them. So it was good to have this crew around it. Then this crew's name was Reservoir Dogs. That was the crew from Breda.
Mm-hmm.
And later we changed the name into Bad Habits.
Mm.
And then from that crew, also everybody got like less serious with it or less focused. Um, and then at the same time, Funky Styles, also the people in Funky Styles got less serious because they got a bit older in life. And back then there were not really opportunities in breaking. So
Yeah.
once your life started to get more serious, like breaking was not really something you would stick to. So then me and Dark Child, it's a guy from Breda, we start battling with our cousins, and we basically joined Funky Styles. But when we joined Funky Styles, they were already on their way of like building off. Um, and like that base that was left from Funky Styles, including me and Dark Child, that basically became the base of Hustlekidz.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched on it there, how you started to develop your own style. Um, I saw in one interview you talked about how before breaking you were training judo, and that kind of you kind of utilize some of that in terms of like how you fall and move on the ground on your back in terms of being thrown and stuff like that. Is there any, because you've been breaking a long time and you've really, of all of the sort of like most top b-boys, I would say that your style is the most unique in some way. It's the most like, if you're watching and it's really low resolution and you can't see your face, you can still tell it's you after about 2 seconds, which is
Yeah.
something really wicked. Is there anything else that kind of led to you developing that particular style, which it sounds like at the start people didn't 100% understand, but then eventually they started to really appreciate it? You said about
Um,
the baby freeze and judo and anything else?
yeah, I mean with judo you learn how to break your fall.
Mm,
Um, and I think it also shaped my form because in judo you're always like this.
mm,
You know, your shoulders are to the front, your back is round, and you're like
hmm.
you're playing with you basically dancing with the balance against your opponent. If
Yes.
he pushes, you push back. If he pulls, you pull back. So you're constantly like in between this balance. So that taught me a lot about balance and how to break my fall. And
Hmm.
I think it kind of made my shape of how it is, which is like the opposite of the bridge.
Mm.
And some of my first lessons were in breaking, taught by Tony from Funky Styles, who was like the OG of our city. And his classes were like, okay, today we're gonna do bridge to handstand. Yeah, I can still not really do that because my body is just not made for it, you know. So then you're like, okay, then I'm gonna just do something else, I guess, but you're still doing something.
Mm.
And I think all those like limitations in my body uh kind of forced me to come up with other ways.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that. I don't know if you're just really humble, but you seem to talk quite. You don't see yourself as a particularly. I've seen interviews where you said that you felt other b-boys came and went who were more talented than you, who
Yeah,
who picked up things faster.
yeah.
It's
And
just
still,
right.
if you let me do any other thing that needs to be a specific way and it needs to be just like that, I will definitely not stand out because I'm not talented in picking up things or something, you know, like if you let me play any sport with a ball like tennis or something or you know, football or you know, I don't enjoy doing it as well.
Hmm.
But as soon as like it's like a thing where you can like do it your way,
Mm.
and it's not about like who's doing the exact same thing the best way, but you can like take it and make it yours. That's when I stand out in it.
The creative
Uh,
side.
the creative side. Um, yeah, I it's still, you know, like compared my basics compared to the dancers that dance on my level, it's not that incredible what I do if you chop my breaking up in pieces.
Hmm.
It's more like, oh, why did I never thought about that idea? But
Hmm.
everybody can do it basically right away.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like
So they,
sometimes we play with the all stars and like we copy each other's moves and stuff, and everybody can copy my move and they can instantly do everything that I do.
yeah, but
But
they don't do it like you though. That's the thing, right?
I cannot really do what they do, but at least I can come up with it, you know, and that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, I've been breaking 25 years, so of course I have some basics and I can do some stuff that's hard. But I can tell you, I definitely didn't pick that up so easily when I was a kid.
Mm.
If you need to teach me a choreo, I always make jokes and I say I have dyslexia for choreos because I just can't pick it up. Even I make it myself and I teach it, I will mess it up.
Wow.
So
Well,
that's like to need to do something structured like that, and it needs to be a specific way. I just really have a hard time.
so you probably hated school. I'm a teacher. You know, and school is so at least well, I love the school I work in, but like you know, people criticize school for being, you know, you have to do it the way the school wants or the way the
Yeah,
educational system demands, and if not, then you know, you don't do well.
yeah,
I think it's kind of one way is the right way. Was it like that for you in
exactly.
school?
But I just did high school. So and I never really enjoyed school. Um, but I was already breaking when I was on high
Mm.
school as well. So I was focused on like, okay, I want to do this. So I had a focus.
So you knew it quite early on then.
Yeah,
You kind of had your
yeah.
vision. You wanted to be a full-time b-boy. You'd kind of decided that in your teenage years.
Nah, well, I don't know. In your teenage years, you don't really know what you want to do, and back then it was not really visual that making a living from breaking
Mm.
was even an opportunity that's like possible, you know.
Mm.
Um, it just went that way. I was interested in photography, but the photography school was not supported by the government, and you had to buy a laptop or a computer at the time, and a camera, and those are really expensive expenses. I ended up doing 1 year of nothing after high school. I was too late to register for the next school. I did an audition for sports education because I felt being a gym teacher maybe was the thing that was closest to breaking
Mm-hmm.
of all things that I could pick. Um, but they didn't accept me at the school because they didn't like my attitude back then. Um, so I was doing 1 year nothing, and that ended up breaking every day. And then I start traveling, and we start winning battles outside of the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents saw like, okay, he's not going to school, but he's hungry for something. He's traveling around Europe. And then after 2007, I was traveling all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So they saw like, okay, this is something he does, and they supported it. And at some point I was like, okay, I want to do this photography school. We went to an open day, and my mom was like, you think you need to do school because I want you to go to school? Like, don't go to school because you feel the pressure of
Mm.
me.
Right, you feel like you have to
If,
go, right?
yeah, if you want to do breaking, you do breaking, but you really go for it.
Cool.
And I ended up buying my camera myself from the money I earned from breaking, and I started joining photographers at work as an assistant and buying books and kind of teaching myself
Mm-hmm.
about
Mm-hmm.
it. And I realized also like you don't need an education to be a photographer. This is something
Mm.
you can just learn. Um, so yeah, I that was a bit my path, and it was never a choice, but more something you roll into.
Yeah.
I was 18 when I won UK champs. That was 2007,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when kind of my career took off.
That's when that really
Uh,
put you on the map, let's say.
yeah.
Mm. It's
Let's say
cool, man.
people start noticing me in 2005, and then in 2007, I really put myself on the map. On
You okay?
Yeah, I just got a call. Shane's trying to call me, and I don't want to pick up and break the connection,
Oh,
so
do whatever
I
you got to
pushed
do,
him away.
man. It's all good.
That's fine.
You're on your phone, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, man. It's cool to speak to. Like I said, we only speak to people that we really look up to and stuff. But I think it's cool for the young people back home to be able to hear the story and the journey of someone who doesn't consider them, because a lot of us when we start we see people that we think are more talented than us, and oh,
yeah,
I can never be. And look, despite whatever limitations you think you have, look at the journey that you've been on and where you've actually uh where
yeah.
breaking has taken you. It's pretty
But
awesome.
I think talented people often
You
learn
don't
things
stick
too
with it.
easily, and they don't stick with it.
I've seen it too.
I think you if you want to be a good breaker, you need to have a certain obsession about it. You need to be obsessed with it to be able to become like somebody or like really good in it.
Yeah,
I think it's more important than talent. I think it's hard work, but also like obsessed. You need to be kind of obsessed with it.
yeah,
And because why I say obsessed, I think hard work is not enough because you can work your ass off all day training breaking, but if you're not obsessed by the thing breaking itself and
Yeah.
you're not doing your research and within the music and the culture and the people that came before you to get all this information and to know everything and to watch everything, you're still not gonna make it.
Yeah.
So apart from the hard work, you really need that like deep interest in it, and I think that's something that's gonna push you even more further.
Yeah, so the young people watching this, I completely agree. Breaking is more than just the what you practice in the training session. Let's say
Yeah,
it's such a rich culture, and there's so much to dive into the music, the history, the culture, the fashion. I feel like it's sort of our responsibility as, you know what I'm saying, I'm in my 30s, and if there's young kids that start, I want them to be into that side of it too. I don't want them to just turn on b-boying when they come to the training session.
yeah,
I'm like, man, there's so much in this culture. There's some in hip hop in general, and I think sometimes we don't make that clear enough to the younger kids. Like, you know,
yeah,
when maybe they start breaking, but they end up getting in just because well, okay, maybe you don't want to keep breaking, but there's DJing, there's graffiti, I mean, there's just so much, you know,
yeah,
to be able to
exactly.
sort of. So sometimes I don't know how it is in Rotterdam. I know that Lucas, who we know in common, is really happy with his training and stuff there, and he kind of gets it in that way.
Yeah,
Um, so I mean, and you said yourself you're going to a session where it's like with kids and all of that today, and I guess that's something that you kind of say to them is you kind of push the hip hop
yeah,
culture in general.
yeah. I mean, we have we do this program with Hip Hop House together. And I came up with this. I don't know. It's not really a concept, but from how I see the kids that I teach, they get taught like twice a week now.
Hmm.
Um, but they're really like the thing is they don't really see the stairs because there's a very big gap in the scene in Rotterdam right now. So there's like kids, and then it's like close to 30 breakers.
Hmm.
So they don't see that ladder how I saw it when I was younger. Um, and they really need to understand that breaking is something you need to do yourself, and it's not like I teach you a move and you cannot do
Mm.
it or you cannot do it and that's it. Um, like all the time, like when you teach, kids are like, "Hey, look, I can do it. Look, can you look? Is this good?" And like they
Hmm.
keep asking these questions, and they want you to look and look, and if you don't give them attention, they start doing something else because they think they can already do it. And
Yeah.
I was like, how do we need to find a way to make them aware, like I need to do this myself and I need to be busy with it myself. So we created this open practice at Sunday for kids. And the concept is that every Sunday there's a different guest practitioner coming.
Cool.
He's there to train himself. He will attract also other older breakers that come there to train. And these kids walk in and they see grown men like training seriously.
Mm.
And the kids that are like the most noisy kids that would like come in the room normally and start grabbing a ball or material and playing with it, running around. They walk in and they just sense the air, they sense
The
it's a
energy is
different type
different.
of environment, and they just stand against the wall and they're like, they look and they're like, okay, there's no space for me to be the kid that I
Fuck
am.
around, yeah, basically, yeah.
Fuck around. So then at some point they just step in and they also start training. And when they have questions, they ask, and they get connected with other older ones. And because my name is attached to it, a lot of other kids from other cities come. Some kids already have a really high level, and they see those other kids, and they see that it's actually possible if you work hard for it.
Yeah.
And a lot of those kids, they train harder, they break more during these open sessions than any lesson.
Mm.
And I also want them to embrace this sense of like freedom in breaking, because when they finish school, the whole day they've been told like
Yeah.
what to do and how to behave, and then they come to a breaking class, and then there is me telling them what to do and how to behave, and I want them to play like be playful with their breaking. Sometimes they come in and they're playing and they grab the ball, and I'm like, for me it's totally fine. You're playing, you need to play, your kids, this is something very important. um but do it with your body,
Yeah.
like do it with physical movement instead of um
Playing on the phone or something, right? Or
playing
playing.
on the phone or with
Yeah.
a ball or anything. Like right now we're breaking, you can do all these other things you're doing anywhere, anytime. Now let's play with doing tricks with our body or seeing what we can do. And I think this Sunday made a really big change for a lot of kids already. Like they really, like, something clicked, and they start training at home, and they take it home, and they see the other kids, and they see the way they dress, they see how the older
Yeah.
ones dress, and they start to shape their identity around breaking, and it's really cool to see.
They start to see the bigger picture. There's the bigger,
Yeah.
yeah, wicked, man. So you'd say then that the scene in Rotterdam, it looks like it has a healthy future.
Right now, yeah, if we keep on pushing, yeah. I
Yeah.
have around 22 kids that are breaking, and I would say maybe 6 or 7 of them, I think they
They're
will stick
committed.
to it. They will become actual breakers.
Cool. Wow, wicked. God, man. Yeah, I wish we could. Well, we got some good kids. I live in Spain, but I'm from
Yeah,
Belfast, and yeah, like you've seen, like we talked about, a lot of people come and go, a lot of really talented kids but then life can be
yeah,
crazy also. The different things.
yeah, and the parents, that's
Yeah.
really, and I see that myself. I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and to both bring them to like an activity like twice or 3 times a week, it's a lot. So
Do they break, your kids?
they break at home a little bit, and they join my class sometimes.
Cool.
My son likes it, but he's 4, and my daughter just likes to do freezes and handstand and
Cool.
bridge, but she doesn't like all the people all the time. She's very shy.
Mm.
Um, but the parents, I think, they're like so important in this progress too.
Hmm.
And it needs to be like very easy for them to bring their kids, and it needs to be not expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
Rotterdam South, the neighborhood where I live, I think it's the poorest neighborhood of the Netherlands.
Oh well.
Um, so money wise, a lot of people are tight on their budget.
Mm.
Um, like I've been talking to youth workers to make a bigger network, to spread breaking more in this area. And sometimes, like, they read like, for just an example, like recently they started charging for parking everywhere in Rotterdam South.
Hmm.
And for this reason, the amount of kids that attempt sports activities went down,
Wow.
just because it's too expensive for parents to park and to bring their kids with public transport.
That's
So
smart.
like that shows like this little, like, budgets already hold them back from, okay, no, we're not gonna bring you to class because we need to park the car and it's gonna cost money.
A lot of people are struggling, man.
Yeah,
It's yeah, stories like that would kind of break my heart because it shows that just to have enough money to not worry about those things is kind of a luxury,
yeah, yeah.
and a lot of people don't have it.
And when you play football, you can go to any field outside. You just grab a
Yeah,
ball and you go. When you skate, you go outside. But when you break, maybe in Spain it's possible, but in the Netherlands, there's no marble floors outside, or you need to have like a dance floor, and then the weather is shit, like
yeah,
70% of the time of the year. So you just need to have like a safe space where you can just walk into after school and
yeah.
start breaking. So we try to facilitate that. Um, but it's hard because it's um not something that brings money in, and it's not something that's really easy to find funding for.
Yeah.
Because it's only just maybe about 5 or 7 kids that are up for it. So we need to sit more on talent development over than like just sports or movement engagement.
Yeah.
So these are all things that I want to focus on more as well next year.
Mm.
And I feel it's part of my like next steps in my career as a breaker to build up the scene here and
Maybe we,
facilitate
we
for
could make
them.
some kind of connection because that's all the same stuff that Fifth Element does. You know, I mean, we had to
Okay.
register as a charity to get a lot of the and sort of like look into different ways to generate funding and things like that and put on different
Yeah.
kinds of events that and that money can then be sort of can flow into stuff which is more our bread and butter based on, you know,
Yeah.
projects and stuff like that. But yeah, you never know. Maybe in the future we can have some kind of, you know, we've been looking into it more in recent years, like collaborations with
Yeah.
other groups with similar visions in other countries, you know, and then maybe the kids can have an opportunity to travel,
Yeah.
things like
That'd
that.
be cool.
What's up, everyone? You'll notice that me and Menno are in different clothes compared to the first half of the video. We had to do a little, we had to reorganize the second part of the interview, but it's all good. And if I'm remembering correctly, yesterday, Menno, I mean, we were mostly just talking about your come up and how you developed your style and stuff like that. And it's hard, you know, to be precise about this stuff because you've taken part in so many competitions and you've won so many events. So I don't think we have time to go through all of them. So I guess I'll just ask you which ones stand out the most in your career.
Um, well, obviously the BC ones is something that stood out in my career. I think BC1 gave me really like a platform to make a living out of breaking and also a lot of exposure. So I think that's the ones that I need to mention first.
Mm-hmm.
But also personally, UK Champs 2007 was one of them, kind of that put my name on the map. So that was definitely one of them. Circle Kings for me was also one of those victories with Cisco. And then also at Cisco, I think it Temple of Style, I think it was 2005, I'm not sure, but I think that was one of the first battles also that put me and Cisco on the radar in terms of like an international level.
Mm-hmm. What year was Circle Kings? Do you remember?
We did like, I think it was 2007, the one
Mm-hmm.
we won. But I did like 4 Circle Kings or something. I think, if I'm correct, it was 2007 or 8. I think it was 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Wicked. Cool. So all of those stand out. And, well, obviously you battle individually on your one-on-ones, but you also take part in crew battles and 2 against 2s and 3s against 3s. Maybe you could give us a little bit of history on Hustlekidz and Dogz. How did those kind of crews come together?
So when I start making my name internationally, I think it was around 2000, 2005, 2004-ish. That was the time where my main crew at the time, Funky Styles, got a little bit less active in general. So that's kind of the era where we formed Hustlekidz. To me, Hustlekidz is Funky Styles. It comes from the same people, the same family, the same city. And one time we were practicing and we told one of the elder ones, Shara from Funky Styles, we had like a meeting, like, okay, how are we gonna push this thing forward? Because we would love to like rap their legacy and carry on what they brought to the table in our city and in our country and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But the name Funky Styles, you know, if you Google Funky Styles, you get so many different things. which is not breaking and didn't feel like our vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when we were kids, the name Funky Styles was like, that was a really dope name and we represented with a lot of pride. But later on, it's not about the crew or the people because we're still very proud of our lineage. But just the name Funky Styles, you were like, how do you guys feel of like changing the name and we putting new members in?
Mm-hmm.
So like younger talent that was coming up from the city. So we can carry this on like as a thing together. And they were like, yo guys, this is your time. You're like, you guys do you. And we're like, they were like, Funky Styles till we die, and that's our chapter. And now you guys can like open a new chapter, and we know in spirit, we still represent them as well. So that's how Hustlekidz came to life. The name Hustlekidz came on. We for a time we had like not really a name. Sometimes we danced under the name Flow on Trees, which stands for, we also organized the event that we called Flow on Trees. That was like me, my cousin Cisco, and the people that kept on breaking in Tilburg. It's like 013 is our city code.
Mm-hmm.
We called it like Flow on Trees. So that was the name, but it was more like, kind of like a name of like a crew in a crew kind of thing. When you're in a bigger crew and then just a small part of the crew stays active.
Yeah.
So basically became a crew in a crew. But then when we moved to Hustlekidz, me and Cisco were doing a 2-on-2 in Luxembourg. And we were with my friend and we had copies of IBE DVDs. The moment we won the final battle, we rushed off stage and we ran to the front door exit where all the guests were coming out, and we were like, IB's that DVD to for sale. So we sell DVDs to get some extra money. And D-Rock was judging and he walked out and he was like, damn, y'all kids just won and now you're here selling IBE DVDs. Y'all kids are hustling.
So that was where it came, Hustlekidz.
Yeah, and then my friend was like, y'all kids are hustling. And then he was like, Hustlekidz. And that's how kind of the name clicked.
Cool.
That's how the name came up. And around the same time, maybe a little bit even before, because I was Dogz before the name Hustlekidz existed, but the crew was basically already there. It started because of there was this jam, Floor Wars, and Cisco and one of my other crew members, he was battling there. Dogz was invited as well, and they both lost first round, but they ended up exchanging energy in a cipher. Got each other's contacts and stayed in touch to MSN at the time.
Yeah.
Invited them to Paris, and then I joined Cisco, and then at some point we kept on coming, and they came to Holland, and Cisco got battle in the crew, and then later on I joined Dogz as well. And that was Dogz. That was how we came down with Dogz. And the name Dogz is because they all practice in a mall called La Défense. So that's where the Dev comes from. Yeah, and so we got a lot of inspiration and vibes from that crew as well. And I feel we start battling with them a bit internationally. And then we shared our experience with the homies back home, and then we start traveling with Hustlekidz. And then Dogz, when we got in, was also, I feel they might, like a big part of the crew was already also a little bit less active than they were before, but still active. So every time I came into a bigger crew, it was like the moment where the crew was already like building off to be less active.
Right.
So that's why Gassama also became Hustlekidz, and we're like the same clique, because Gassama was one of the few from Dogz that was still active. We kind of fused, and it became like one big family, Dogz, Hustlekidz.
Okay, cool. And when you first started really, traveling and going to different events, Who were the b-boys that really stood out? Maybe because it was a slightly different time, right? Maybe it was the really early days of YouTube, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like now where we have access to footage of everyone.
When I just started traveling, it was kind of the era of like Terror Bunch kind of era, Circus Runaways.
Hmm.
There was a huge contrast of like different styles back then. Um, and at one hand you had like the circus type of b-boys
Mm.
wearing makeup and skinny jeans and doing flexible moves.
Yeah.
And then on the other side there was like, I always call it the Circle Kings hype, because I felt Circle Kings was one of those events that um, made that style also a bit popular, like more the traditional style. I felt people were coming back to basics, um, finding themselves uh, back in like traditional b-boy outfits,
Hmm.
Puma suede and chucks and pro cats, and you know the whole Florida style of like having like pockets hanging out of your pants and Dickies
Yeah.
pants, you know the
Yeah, to the side like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
cats. You had like those two styles, and to be honest, I was inspired by both. I like both of them. Um, and I really like the freedom that this traditional approach had. Uh, but I love the creativity as well from all those abstract styles.
Hmm.
So I was a bit in the middle, I guess. Um, I don't think you could like categorize myself in either one of them. Um, but either way, I was definitely inspired with of both of them.
Yeah. But it's good. Diversity is good, right? When it comes to that, people are pushing the boundaries of the scene in different ways.
Exactly. So on the one side we had to battle guys like Terror Bunch, and then the other side we had to battle guys from Flomo and Ghost Crew. So
Hmm.
that was a bit the contrast. And of course all the French crews, you know, you had like Pokemon
Of
and
course.
Phase T and Melting Force, you know, Wanted. Like France was huge and still is.
Mm.
But I feel like that's the place where you get your first experience as a young b-boy at the time to start traveling. It's like the first level is your own country, and then the second level is like all those French events. And once you can make it there, you can kind of, you know, make it everywhere in a way.
Yeah, cool. So do you have one for the young B-boys and B-girls watching this? Is there one particular event that you would recommend that you would say is like a must if you get the opportunity to go there?
Yeah, I think of course the obvious ones, um, Outbreak, and IBE,
Hmm.
are events like that. I think they are very dope, but they're also huge and very
Mm.
big. So maybe they're a bit less personal. If you really like new to the scene, I think it's cool to like just visit like a crew anniversary jam,
Hmm.
something that's like a bit smaller but still like has like internationals in it.
Hmm.
I think that's more of a place where you can maybe get the experience you need. And of course, this experience of an IB and Outbreak is huge, and it's amazing. Um, but maybe it's a little bit too much if you're looking for battle experience, you know,
Hmm.
because you might go there and just not make the prelim and be disappointed, and that's it, you know. So I think it's good to like look for smaller jams and just explore different scenes. I think it's cool to like to see how is the scene in Spain, you know, go to a local scene in Spain,
Yeah.
go same in Italy and Germany, like get to know the scenes locally. Maybe even a local jam, not even an international jam. But I think that's a cool way to connect with people and to make bonds and so on.
How is the scene in the Netherlands at the minute? How has it changed over the past 20 whatever years since you started breaking? I remember we mentioned before that there's not as many when you talked about in the past, every neighborhood had a crew. I think you said it's not like that anymore. But is there still like a relatively healthy local scene with local events and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, we still have IB, and then we have World Breaking Classics. We have a lot of smaller events. We also have NBL. It's the Netherlands B-Boy League, and they have like every now and then there's a competition with age categories. So it's a good place to see the new generation and the youth. This is where they get their experiences and getting in touch with the scene for the first time, I guess. And I think the things like initiatives like NBL, they really help to create a platform for kids, and they make like a new generation ready to go to the real jams, let's say.
Cool. And so next week you're going to Rio, right, for Red Bull?
Yes.
How do you feel? You feel good? You feel prepared?
I feel good. I mean, I've been still training daily on a daily basis. I feel I've been pushing myself a little bit less hard than I did for the Olympics. But I also feel less pressured, so I feel better in my dance. I feel better in my movement. Maybe stamina-wise, I was in a bit of a better shape during Olympics, but on a mental state, I've been in a way better state right now than I was at the Olympics.
Okay.
And I'm just looking forward to catch the vibe again and be in Rio. And I try not to put too much pressure on myself this time, and go in with an open mind, and anything can happen.
Did it feel like a lot of pressure at the Olympics, given that it was such a big stage and it's the first time that breaking was in the Olympics and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, placing myself for the Olympics was the most pressure, I think.
Okay.
Because everybody kind of expected me to qualify and so on. And the qualification was rough, man. It was really hard. There's amazing breakers that didn't make the qualification. Guys like Sonny, Karam, Elvin, so on, like really high level breakers that didn't make it and fought so hard for this, and like dedicated their like last 3 years,
Right.
like by getting there, and when you put so much on the side to get there and you're not sure of getting there, that's a lot of pressure. So I have to say, like the Olympic qualifier series, at some point you're doing a battle and you're like, if I lose this battle, I'm not making it to the Olympics. Yeah. And then this 3 years of dedication is just out of the window. And I have to explain everybody why I didn't make it, because everybody is involved, like your family, your city, your sponsors. Everybody kind of expecting you to already be there. Like people pay attention, but they don't really pay attention, so they assume you're already in.
Right.
Oh, you're not in the Olympics? Why? But you won the World Championship 3 times. You should be.
Yeah.
Why? You're like so tired of like explaining, like, no, there's Olympic qualifiers, so you need to get points. And I won the European Championship, but that was not the European Games. It's basically the same competition, but it's been different in the ranking and blah, blah, blah. And, to explain this like a zillion times was so like
tiring, probably.
Like, yes, I made it. I'll do the Olympics. But I knew I was placed only 1 month before the actual Olympics. So I felt there was less pressure at the Olympics than before. And I felt I was doing better in the Olympics than before. But yeah, I don't know. I was quite happy with how it went. Didn't do the best that I could do in my battle, but I don't know, when I lost, I was like, this is the end of that era of my life. At least time to close the sport and move back to the culture again, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, all in all, it was a positive experience, but the fact that it came to an end isn't the worst thing either. Sounds
Ex-
like.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get you, man. Okay, well, just before we finish up, like I told you, our main aim for this is hoping that the young guys back home can 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 hear from people that our crew really respects and get something from it. So, uh, if you have, if I ask you the question, well, a couple of b-boys or b-girls that young people in the dance should study, people that they should really be paying attention to and watching how they break and trying to learn something from them, who would you recommend?
Oh, damn, that's a long list.
Apart from yourself.
I think, well, people like Ken Swift,
Hmm.
Chris Lex, Float, um, Mr. Wiggles,
Hmm.
um, let's see, from that generation, of course, Storm, Swift Rock,
Hmm.
Karim Barouche. Um, that's just so easy to forget people in this list.
That's a pretty good list already. That's a lot.
But then I would say like study them, like that era. I know not all of them were from the same era, but
Mm.
like I think that's an important list to study. I would say try to find footage of B-Boy Troll also. Um,
Yeah, he was I last year he was at an event in the south of Spain in I can't remember. Southeast Project. He was there.
because personally, me, I got inspired a lot also by a lot of breakers from Florida, and
Mhm.
from stories that I heard from them, is he had a huge influence on all of them. You know, people like Hebs Fury, Lego,
Hmm.
Luigi, Flea Rock, like they all
Skill
have this
methods.
legacy, you know, they all have this certain ingredient in their breaking that I really like. Like they don't dance the same, but they have something in common. That's
Hmm.
the describable thing about, I don't know, Florida b-boys that always inspired me. Um, so it's also those names that I just mentioned. That's also a good list, of course,
Yeah.
to check out. Um, Crews like Actual Force, Mauricio, one of my all-time favorite breakers as well. Um, who else? I think that's a good list
That's very
to
complete. That's good. I like that. I like that. Okay, wicked man. Thank you so much for your time. Just wondering if you've got any last message to any of the young b-boys and b-girls out there back in Ireland or anywhere else.
Yeah, man, just enjoy the journey. Never forget why you start doing it. It's because you start doing it because you like it. And I know really quickly it can become about the winning. If you're winning, that's nice, but if you're not winning, don't let that demotivate you, you know. Um, because this culture is more than about winning competitions. Um, I would say just have a really deep interest in the people that came before you.
Hmm.
It's happening right now, and dive deep in music and everything around breaking. And yeah, have fun with it. That's
Have
the most
fun.
thing. Breaking is like a medicine, and use it like a medicine, you know.
Very good. So yeah, have fun and do your research and get stuck into everything the culture has to offer. Maybe we could say something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Try
Okay.
to find something new each practice and develop on that. It can be a really tiny detail, but just like keep searching for new movement. I see a lot of breakers and they stick with what they do for a long time. I would say challenge yourself to tweak it or to change it, and to keep that as a motivation to practice. Because like this, every practice will be different. There will be a surge. You will keep your motivation that will stay more fun for a long time instead of running the same moves every practice.
Yeah, and going through the motions. Better to be evolving, right?
Yes.
I think a lot of us sometimes, I know myself, sometimes I need to remind myself of that. You know, it's more fun if you don't just go through the motions. And I think we spoke about it in other interviews before. It's easy to train sometimes and just just go over what you're already good at.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, instead of getting out of your comfort zone. And it's hard to do, but in the long term, it's more rewarding.
Exactly, definitely.
Yeah. All right, man.
Don't overlook basics too quick. I would say also to all the, let's say, beginners. Like if you can do a CC, you can spend years evolving just as CC. You know, like don't overstep too quickly about the basics, because the basics is the source for everything.
Yeah. Wicked. Okay, man. Thank you so much for your time. Salute. Later.
Good.
Most notable hip hop potable.
Get biz on the mic like back in the days.